We're going to look at properties of parallelograms in lesson 34. And I'm just going to name the properties. We're on page 218. One property of a parallelogram. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then opposite angles are congruent. So these angles are opposite, so therefore they are congruent. And these angles are opposite, therefore they are congruent. Number 2, consecutive angles are supplementary. Consecutive angles would be adjacent angles, so maybe 1 and 2. So angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. Let's call this angle 3. Well, remember that opposite angles are congruent, so we could also say angle 1 plus angle 3 equals 180. But consecutive angles are supplementary. Number 3, opposite sides are congruent. You can draw a little tick mark, opposite sides congruent. And then number 4, the diagonals bisect. So if we draw a diagonal, bisect means it cuts it in half. So this part of the line is equal to or congruent to this part of the line, or this part of this line, erase this for now, is congruent to that part of the line. So the diagonals bisect each other. So now let's just look at one example problem, now that we know our properties. Example 4 wants us to find x and y. And it gives us all this stuff. Well, let's first find x. We know that, referring back to number 3, property number 3 said opposite sides are parallel. So that would mean side PQ, congruent. Side PQ is congruent to side SR. So therefore we can say 3x plus 10 equals 7x minus 8, and we can solve. Minus the 3x to both sides to get 4x minus 8 equals 10. Add 8 to both sides to get 18 equals 4x. And then divide by 4. And you're going to get a fraction, but 18 over 2 would reduce to 9 over 2, or I'm going to call it 4.5. So x would be 4.5. Now we just need to solve for y. So we got two diagonals here. And since it is a parallelogram, we know that diagonals bisect. When they bisect, all right, PR is then cut in half. So this line is congruent to this line. And we know their values. So we can say 1/2 y plus 10 equals 2y minus 2. We subtract 10. Negative 12, or 2y minus 12 equals 1/2 y. From here, let's see, we're going to subtract 2y. I'll probably solve this a harder way, but it's okay. And we get 1/2 minus 2y. I'll omit the y's for now, just so we can solve the fraction. So we got to get a common denominator, multiply by 2, and we get 4 over 2. 1 minus 4, negative 3 over 2. So now we can go negative 3 over 2y equals negative 12. From that point, we have to multiply by the reciprocal, negative 2/3, negative 2/3. So negatives and negatives cancel to make a positive. And we do 12 times 2 over 3. Move this down so you can see it. 12 times 2 over 3. The 3 goes into 12 4 times. and you do 4 times 2. Therefore, y equals 8. And those would be your 2 answers. And that is how you use properties of a parallelogram.